My relationship with style began essentially the same way everyone else's relationship with style begins. Um, my mom picked my clothes out for me. Um, I grew up with an older sister. I've got an older sister who's 4 years older than me. And where I'm from, that means you're twins. So my mom would dress us up in like identical clothes or very similar outfits, that type of thing. I suppose as a parent, it's also just easier. You don't have to expend your decision making power in making two different outfits for your little girls anyway. So yeah, so then as I got older, of course, every child gets to that stage where you start to pick out your own clothes. And I find this such a fascinating phase in childhood. I see it with my brother, I see it with, younger kids of my colleagues. And I ask them about it. I ask them, hey, did you pick out your own outfit, that type of thing. I think it's interesting. It's an interesting thing to know, whether they're making those decisions about them, what they feel comfortable in, what they think looks nice, sometimes based on compliments that they get. So they're learning, what looks good on them, that type of thing. What they like, what patterns they like to see. So I think it's pretty cool. I think it's a cool part of every childhood, and I'm loving to see it in children. I don't think I really appreciated, going through it myself, but I'm really enjoying and appreciating seeing it in younger children around me. So then throughout, I guess my tween years, into my teen years, I was. You see, that's how undefined my style was. I would just kind of, and I remember during that time, a lot of people would ask because some people fell kind of neatly into the boxes of either like a cheese girl type vibe, or like, I don't know, like goth, or like, they were just how, like, there were different style categories. It's really difficult to like put a finger on each because remember the hip hop scarves, if you're around that time, like mid 2000s, yeah, like early 2010s, the hip hop scarves and things like that. Like you were either in that camp or you were doing something else, like, yeah. So but I didn't fall neatly into each one. And I remember just liking different elements of, different styles, um, and social groups as well. And so I was not really very defined. I was very difficult to buy gifts for. So you could never know what I would like. And I didn't see it as a problem because to me I felt like my pool was bigger than everyone else's because I didn't restrict myself, or inhibit myself to a particular style. Okay, so I think early teens, mid to early teens, and a bit of my early 20s, I began to realize that I really like kind of androgynous fashion, and androgynous apparel, because of the fact that I had a very undefined style. Um, I just felt like androgyny was for me, I didn't like being in things that were too feminine, but I also wasn't for the overly harsh, masculine kind of look, I could do, for instance, a combat look, like a military look, like the chunky boots, buttons, zips, metal, and all of that. But, I wanted to look cute as well. So I need something that's going to be form-fitting, that's going to be hugging, and that kind of thing. So I would play around with that balance, and also fell in love. So I fell in love with balancing masculine and feminine, style features, but I also began to enjoy that space between, right? That space between. So androgynous wear, that kind of, you don't know if it's a dress or it's a shirt, Um, what else? Like the kind of, Kanye West, not even really Kanye West, but like there's a very high end, runway androgynous fashion. I'll try to find pictures and put them in, but I think that's the best I can describe it. Men and women can wear it, and it doesn't look particularly male or female, not tailored to any particular gender. So for the longest time, I was kind of in that arena, because, as it so happens, androgynous wear also happens to be very loose fitting. It doesn't have any. It doesn't have very many curved lines. It's a lot of straight lines. It's a lot of space as well. So it also just happens by default to be very comfortable attire, or at least I felt it was. So moving right along, there happened to be a shift in my life, and I guess this could actually just have been the perfect storm of different paradigm shifts in my life. It could either be that a lot of things about me changed at the same time, or it could be, as I believe, that there was one particular shift that precipitated all the others. And that was my coming to faith and coming to Christ. But during that time, I was starting to reevaluate a lot of things about myself, and my style and identity was a huge part, right? Because I love fashion, I like clothes, even at a time when I couldn't define what my style was or what kinds of things I think look good on me. I just still liked clothes, I liked to look through them. I didn't know how to shop properly, because that's another skill. You don't only need to know how to dress yourself, but you need to know how to shop for clothing. There's an actual philosophy behind how do you buy the things you buy, how do you arrange your wardrobe, how do you expect how long do you expect your wardrobe to last, that type of thing. How do you buy items, how do you assess the items that you add to your wardrobe, to your arsenal of clothing. Anyhow, so I began to interrogate my style, because I was, as I was coming to faith, and with all the things I was learning about what it means to be holy, what it means to be righteous, what God's intention and purpose for man is, and his intention for me, which is to reconcile with me, using Christ to do that, as a redeemer, and so wanting me to be as close as possible to him, in my ways, in my heart posture, in my thinking, in the way that I behave, in staying away from sin, in being modest, in being humble, in being hardworking and diligent, that type of thing. So when I was starting to grapple with those ideas around things like style, and other things like politics as well, which we won't get into now, I was realizing that I was feeling more and more immodest in certain items of clothing. So things like gym wear, workout wear, like even like athleisure, like that kind of very sexy. I'm a fitness bunny. Okay, I'm just gonna say this. I know I'm interrupting my train of thought here, but please excuse the noise. We are kind of in front of a very busy road, but anyway, it'll pass. Thank you for bearing with me. So that look, that kind of Insta baddie, fitness bunny, look with the leggings and the cropped hoodie and that kind of thing, and the sneakers, and I used to really be into that, and I didn't see an issue with it. I didn't mind. I wanted to show. I thought I had cute legs. I wanted to show off my cute legs, and a small waist. And I was like, hey, this looks nice, and like cropped things generally. So I could do that, and that looks good on me. And sure enough, people would, compliment me and things like that. But I was finding that as I was coming to Christ, and as I was transitioning back to God, I didn't feel comfortable leaving the house in like leggings. If first of all, the biggest change is I didn't feel comfortable with, leaving the house without my bottom covered, you know. Even now, I took my I've got a kind of blouse on. It's not a cardigan, like a blouse that covers all the way down, you know, past my peaches, because I don't want to be walking around all day with my features exposed. But for the purposes of this video, I didn't want something over my shoulder, so I thought I should perhaps take it off because it was going to just help me feel more relaxed. But something like that, for instance, where I'm wearing a long, it's a maxi dress, right? But I just want to make sure that my behind is covered. And so that leads me also to another thing. Wearing dresses. I was not someone who wore dresses. If I was wearing a dress, it would have to be a mini dress. So I could appreciate, you know, the importance of a sexy little black thing, or, you know, a cute little red number, or something like that. But I never really wore dresses. I never really appreciated dresses in and of themselves. And right now, I can tell you hands down, dresses are the bomb, okay? Dresses, first of all, dresses cut your time spent deciding on clothing in half, because dresses are the whole outfit, okay? You don't have to try to match the pants with a shirt that's gonna have to match with the shoes. No, dresses are, I like one item outfits. If you're a dress, if you're a jumpsuit, if you're a wraparound thing, you are for me. I don't want to have to, because I think a lot, you know, and it's not that I'm always in dresses. I try to always be in dresses, but even when I wear jeans, like, I'll stick to my rule. I don't want my booty just out there, you know. So I'll find like a cardigan that covers, you know, or wear a shirt that covers. But for the most part, I really just don't feel comfortable in jeans. I can't explain it. There'll be times when I come up with a very cute outfit, and it just so happens that that outfit is with jeans, and I can't leave the house in it. You know, I'll get to the point of wearing it and even putting on the shoes, and when I stand there in front of the mirror ready to go, I just can't leave the house. There have been times when I call my boyfriend panicking because I can't leave the house in these jeans. Like, I can't leave in jeans. So yeah, it's I don't know whether I've got a propensity for like overthinking a lot of things, and that could also be what it is. But so, including dresses, trying to stay away from an exposed booty, things like exposing too much skin. I don't wear dresses if I'm not wearing stockings underneath. So trying to not show too much skin. Recently, I've been kind of teeter-tottering on how I feel about exposed shoulders, because sometimes I feel convicted about exposed shoulders, but for the most part, I think they're very girly, you know. So also, I don't want to lose that element of youthfulness, you know, as well. So I don't quite mind things like a low chest, not too low, of course, but I know some people who would think this is, you know, immodest. Even my bare shoulders are immodest and that kind of thing. So that would be number 3. Number 4, I would say heels are a big thing. Now, the same thing with fashion. I've always had a fascination with heels. Well, I mean, I guess heels are part of fashion, but I guess the same thing with clothes I had with shoes. So not only heels, but in this case, we're going to focus particularly on heels, because I've just fallen in love. I think before I started wearing heels seriously, I used to just collect them. Like, I would fall in love with a pair of heels and I just had to have them. My first pair of heels were these short gray wedge heels that my mom got for me. They had a kind of peep toe situation, and I had them for the longest time before I actually wore them. But I realized when I started wearing, and it was a kitty heel, but when I started wearing them, I realized that I actually like these heels. And then I think it was a few years later, I had another pair of wedge heels, and just wedge heels, I think, for a few more years after that. And eventually I had a black suede, a black suede heel, wedge heel also, that was super comfortable. And I did some walking in that, but it always takes me some time. So I'll buy a pair of heels, and it'll take me like years in some instances to actually start walking around and wearing that heel. I guess because it's just intimidating also. And everyone's always thinking, well, where are you going to go in heels anyway? You know, heels are like for an occasion, like you look too dressed up. Heels do that to a look. But one thing I'm learning with heels, as with dresses as well, is that there is no kind of sneaker or jean equivalent to those things. There's never going to be a thing that makes it not, it's inherently dressed up, you know. For someone who thinks that for someone who's going to think that you're dressed up in those things, they're never not going to see you as dressed up in them, you know. Which is why you just get on it, right? And you start practicing wearing those things, moving, you know, in those things, so that people no longer see it as a kind of diversion of your regular style, and therefore you are dressed up as opposed to how you usually are. So I guess that's the transition phase that I find myself in at the moment. But I'm saying about the heels that eventually I got to a point where I was collecting quite a few pairs, and I would walk around them at home, which is, I think, a very underrated tip, is I would definitely I don't know if I should continue, or I don't know how long this truck is here for. Practicing wearing your heels at home is actually a very underrated tip to feeling more confident in heels. Also just learning how to move in them. So I've now become someone who's, I think, 5 days out of 7 I am wearing heels, or I try every day really, but it's difficult over the weekend because I'm not really someone who even wants to leave the house over the weekend, which doesn't stop me from wearing my heels, but you know, I'm not going out in them. But definitely my standard work outfit is a dress and a pair of heels, and you know, just pairing those, usually like ankle boot heels, particularly because we've just left winter, so I've been wearing a lot of those. I love me a wedge heel, you know, something with a thick heel as well. I can do a whole like guide to wearing heels if you want that. But in fact, I think I'll do that. I'll speak more about my style now, and you know, defining my style and how to get to know yourself and know your style and your body as well, and choose and how to shop. You know, how to choose things and colors for your body. And then I'll do the same thing for shoes and heels as well. But for now, I learned that the kinds of clothing you wear, so those are 4 things that I said have changed, but I've learned in all 4 of those things, and what the philosophy is essentially around them, is that you behave a certain way or move a certain way in different types of clothing, right? And this is, you know, it's not even that deep, like everyone can understand this. If you're in something that's a little tighter, your motion is a lot more inhibited than if you're just in a baggy shirt, you know, that type of thing. If you're in heels, you know, you can't move as easily, or you don't have the same range of motion as someone who's not in heels, that type of thing. So very standard. Everyone understands that. But I think for me, it's even more than that. Like I pay attention to things, for instance, like posture, So I want things that I want things with lines and contours that are going to give me a certain kind of posture, that are going to force me to sit upright. For instance, heels force you to be more deliberate, right? When you're wearing heels, you have to be a lot more deliberate about your steps, a lot more deliberate about your motion. You have to, there's a whole array of things. Wearing certain colors requires that you're more careful. So I enjoy that about the pieces that I choose. Of course, I want to be comfortable in the clothing that I pick. I don't think I'm ever uncomfortable in the things that I wear, because otherwise it's difficult to get out of the house in the first place. So I think there's that benefit as well to the things, to the things you choose, and the way that it can influence your presentation of yourself, with the world. I think also, I could go on for quite some time about this, but lastly, I want to touch on what your clothes mean to you, because I find that in my own kind of philosophy of fashion, I believe a lot in symbolism, right? So, for instance, the wearing dresses thing is not just a fashion choice, it's almost kind of a declaration of my femininity, right? Dresses are very practical also. Like, I've just got like 4 holes. I put my head in, like, it just works, okay? It's easy to wear, it's easy to choose, like, it's cool. I like it. So for me, I like it for its utility as well. But I also like what it says, I like that, at least very largely in our culture. I know it's a very secular culture, but in like contemporary 2022 modern culture, you don't see men walking around in dresses a lot, unless of course they're like part of the LGBT community, but this isn't that discussion. You won't see a lot of heterosexual males walking around in dresses, casually. If they are, they're trying to make a statement. If they are, they're going to grab attention. But it's like dresses are exclusively for us. They can't claim pants in the same way that we can claim dresses, So I like that about it. Dresses are feminine. Every woman looks better in a dress than pants. I don't care. I don't need to have seen her before. I don't care who she is. Every single woman looks better in a dress than pants, right? Also in skirts, depending on, her being able to choose the kind of skirt that flatters her body, and same for dresses as well. But yeah, hands down, that's one thing that I like about dresses as well. In fact, I think I'm on like 3 things right now that I like about them. I like them for their utility. I like the statement, the feminine statement, right, that I'm conveying. I like the symbolism in terms of relations, right? What it says about my relationship, for instance, with my partner, my boyfriend. I like to look feminine next to him, I like what that picture, what that image conveys, right? That he's the one who wears the pants in our relationship. I like that. So things like that kind of symbolism for me also goes a long way in my choosing clothing, items, outfits, that kind of thing. But most importantly, and probably the elephant in the room, is my headscarf, right? You will very seldom see me without my headscarf. And also for a very, I would say practical, because I don't have to style my hair. But also it's just like with the dresses, it meets that kind of, that there's an intersection between its utility and also its symbolism, which is the covering, right? Your head covering, and not wanting to leave my home, my house, without a covering over my head. In the same way that Christ covers the church, the husband covers the wife as her head, and I like what that reminds me. Sometimes you see me wearing the cross because I like that that's a symbol of me literally carrying my cross. Um, yeah, so I mean, things like that I give thought into before I just put them on. And that was something that I really can't say for the time before, right? I used to genuinely, like, if it's nice, I'm gonna, if it looks good, if I think, hey, that looks cute, I wonder how it would look on me, I'm putting it on without really much thought to it. Whereas now I give a lot more thought to it. If you want a more in-depth video about how I put together outfits, colors, and things for particular situations, is there such a thing as being overdressed or underdressed? If you want more detailed conversation around that, let me know in the comments. But that is, I think, the first video down for the recovering feminist when it comes to style.